Hey, what's going on, Garrett?
How doing, Denver? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well. We are real excited to go through some of the cash flow forecasting tool today. I know you've talked with a lot of clients and found a lot of use out of it. I know we've got couple in implementation and training right now that are finding a lot of value out of it. So I think the goal for today is to walk through kind of the setup, walk through all the different features and functions, and then how it can integrate with the AP and AR modules.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know we have the tool out for a little bit now, and I'd say this and the whip are definitely the two that are most in focus for people when they jump in the system. So nice
Yep.
to mix this in every once in a while.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what I've heard from some of the clients that have really taken to using the system, we've gotten a lot of feedback on just being able to have the information in front of you, being able to know whether we need to pull from the line of credit, but also just given the tools to manage right the AP and AR, whether it's from the accounting team or the project team as it relates to their invoices, on their job. So I guess as we kind of start things off here, to find the cash flow forecast for anyone who hasn't clicked into it would be under financials, cash flow forecast. Going to be presented with this page here. For anyone who hasn't set it up at this point, these tiles will all not be here. So all we would need to do is click into the settings icon at the top, and then all we would need to do is pick which um, cash accounts are going to be included in our on-hand cash. So things like, your checking accounts, maybe payroll accounts or anything like that. So just whichever accounts we want to show as today's balance, right? And then on the right-hand side, basically this box is going to be what our total line of credit available is. And then we would check the box for any accounts that would essentially eat away at this balance. So it's looking at the general ledger balance in that account. If we had $2 million in there and that account had a $500,000 balance in it, it's going to do the math, figure out we're at, $1.5 million of available line of credit. So once you have that selected, scroll down, hit save, refresh your cash flow forecast, and then you'll start seeing all of these values populate in here. Okay. So as we scroll on through this, we're going to start seeing, each of our individual accounts here. We'll see what our total on hand cash as of today is. So once again, looking at the general ledger balances for everything, for those, in this case, 4 accounts, plot that as our starting cash position. And then as we make our way through, we'll start with the inflow. By default, you will see just the AR collections row here. So it's just showing all of our outstanding AR invoices, based on technically the projected payment date. And we'll explain what the difference that and the due date would be. But essentially, the first week is always going to be the current due. So invoices due this week of the 11th and previously due invoice. So this will be probably a bigger bucket than most, as it shows all past due and current due invoices. But as we start making our way through this, we're looking at invoices due the week of January 18th. So the 18th through the 24th, the 25th through the 31st, etc. Right. So as we click into any of these columns for the AR, same functionality will exist for the AP. But when you click in here, you'll be able to see due for the week of January 18th, each of our invoices. We can see what our invoice date is, our due date. Now this will come from the accounting system based on terms or how that invoice is keyed into the system. But then we'll have our projected payment date here. So you can see that by default, we will have our due date be our projected payment date. But in some cases, we can go in here and update that projected payment date to be more suitable for when we expect to receive payment for those AR invoices. So when we click into here, we could simply pick a date. I think I'm going to get paid at the end of the month, or right, we can use our projected payment date. So how this all works, since we're on pay app 6 for this job, we've got maybe 5, 4, 3 invoices that have been paid previously. So what it's doing is it's taking the average days to pay for this particular job and suggesting what date we would expect payment from. So in this case, we had it due within 30 days. They're paying, would that be 37 days? So since the average is 37 days, it says, all right, they're going to pay the week probably of on January 22nd. So if I click this, it will then update my projected payment date. If I want to put any notes, if I want to pick a reason, I most certainly can. It's not required, but if I want to just update it here, I can hit save. And now any invoices where that date is changed now, it will then move it into the appropriate week. Right, so now we can get a pretty good feel for how many invoices we expect payment for each of those weeks. And we can use some of the logic of ProNovos to pick up what those average days to pay are and then schedule that accordingly.
Makes sense. So how do you kind of use all that to identify if, well, maybe have cash shortages or delays, and obviously that's going to impact the business and operations. So
yeah, because we can start to see, hey, for this week, we've got $25,000 on hand. We're expecting $1 million in this week. We can see we're scheduled to pay 1.6. So now we can start plotting in, okay, if all the numbers are where they need to be, starting at the end of the week, this is what we're projecting our cash to look like based on the AR invoices and outstanding payables. Now you can see I have a bunch of other things scheduled in here. So you can really take advantage of, any monthly equipment loans, rent, utilities, other streams of revenue for rentals or vehicle or whatever it may be, right? We can plot these additional line items in here where we can click on the add. I can give it a name. I can give it the amount and then what that frequency is going to be. So if I just want a one-time, hey, we're going to receive a payment for this, I can click there. If I want to schedule it, for a weekly interval and say service work is going to bring us in 20 grand a week starting today and maybe go out for the next couple months. Once I add all that information in there, it will then plot our service work and then have that being reflected in our cash positions up above. Right. AP, very similar, right? You can click into the weeks. You can see the invoices. We can update our projected payment dates for each of those invoices if we think we're going to get paid differently. There is a little bit of different functionality for payables. Two things. One, if I want to go into my AP payables module, right? So I can see all my invoices, invoice date, due date. Some accounting systems, some I've seen in the past where we may have a due date, just how the invoice goes into the system. So what you can do, if you scroll to the top into the settings, what we can do is pick a projected payment date to be X number of days past the invoice date, either for all invoices or invoices without a due date. That way, if I want to say, maybe I want the general rule of thumb to be, 30 days, maybe that's how most of the invoices are in there. But if there are any without a due date, maybe I just want to push those out 45 days. So I can adjust this, save it. What that will do is then update all of the invoices on my payables report to now have a new projected payment date of 45 days past my invoice date, right? So what we can do there is manage those from a global level. What we can also do from the payable side is look into this generally is more relevant for invoices out to our subcontractors. So if I wanted to push out any invoices based on the billing for that job, you can actually link the AP transaction. So if I click into the flyout window for this particular invoice, for example, I can then see that this invoice is linked to this pay app number 2. What this will do is we can see our invoice date, we can see what our due date was, we can see what our projected payment date is. What it's going to do is, since I've tied this AP transaction to the billing for this job, what it's going to do is figure out what the due date of that billing is, right? And if I hover over this, it will add 7 days to the due date of the billing on the job and make that our projected payment date for the AP transaction. So like I said, for subcontract invoices, in this situation where it's a pay when paid kind of situation, or, we just want to schedule, hey, if we get the payment May 1st, and I want to schedule us to pay this invoice within 7 days of receiving that check, tying these two together will allow us to kick out this date a week past when the billing is due. And I think from that perspective, kind of helping automate where those AP transactions are getting paid has been super helpful for scheduling those out, especially for those, like I said, subcontract invoices or pay when paid invoices, to get a better feel for when those invoices are due. Now, on the flip side, if I were to look at the billings for that job, and what we can do is actually see if I had a linked invoice here, or 2 or 3 or 4, if I had any linked AP transactions to this billing, it will tell me how many. And if I click on it, it would show me each AP transaction that is linked to this billing. So that way, hey, we received a check for this job. Now I want to see what subs or which invoices I need to pay for that particular billing. As long as they're all linked, I can click here and it would show me a list of all of the individual AP transactions. So then maybe we take that, cut a check on Friday, and we've got everything paid up on that particular job. Right. And I think from your perspective, Garrett, I think, being able to tie those invoices to one another has been super helpful, because I know a lot of the accounting systems kind of don't offer that out of the box. So curious to hear kind of some of the feedback you've heard from, the cash flow management and kind of linking those invoices together as well.
Yeah, I think it's been super helpful, and obviously making sure the forecast is accurate and it's consistent across, for decision making across all projects is super important, and really gives you a snapshot of where you're at, because as we know, cash is king. That we've talked about that a million times. So,
Yep. So being able to, update our projected dates here, being able to schedule out any sort of inflow items, schedule out our outflow items in here, should help a lot with visibility. So this will be your 13-week look ahead for all of our inflows, all of our outflows, and pit, starting balances versus everything in the system. What's our ending balance going to be? But also then, taking it a step further to being able to link those transactions to one another, putting in notes, on those invoices as those projected days get kicked out or moved around as well. So I think overall it's a pretty straightforward enough setup. It just, I think, making sure that we can manage the individual invoices as they are scheduled to be paid is what's really going to drive a lot of value here. And in the sense of, do we need to start pulling from that line of credit, or do we have enough in the pipeline to cover ourselves as we, pay all of our material vendors or subcontractors as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think we can open it up if there's any questions or comments or anything as you guys have gotten into the system, played around with it. We're always, open to any feedback that that we're hearing. I know a big one at this point that we look to figure out some logic around is helping automate that linking process between the AP transactions and the billings. So once we have some updates on, some of that additional logic that we can put in place, I know that that will be super helpful for trying to help automate this whole process. But questions, comments, concerns, we've got a couple minutes here if you guys want to drop them in the chat. Obviously, if you think of anything later on, you can always feel free to message myself or Garrett for that matter as well. And if not, if you guys are okay, feel free to drop off. And I think our next power session is going to be in 2 weeks. We will be looking over the project review functionality for the project team and how that can be incorporated with the accounting and management team as well. All right, so I'm not seeing anything just yet. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so, and then yeah, we appreciate anyone who jumped on the live version of this. Obviously, we'll have these recorded and put up on the website and the YouTube channel as well. But we appreciate you guys. And Garrett, as always, thanks for joining us, and we're excited for our next one.
Yep. Yeah. The recording will be up there, and if anyone has any suggestions or ways it might help you a little bit more, something custom, please just reach out, and we'll always look into it for you.
All right. Well, hope everyone has a good day, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks for project reviews on the 27th at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.